Hello, everyone. This is Chris DeLeon, Editor-in-Chief of the Criterion.
And my name is Casey Smith. I'm the editor of photography through the Criterion.
We want to welcome everybody to our second edition of the podcast that we've been going with this year. It is a weekly podcast. Last week we were discussing the quarterback controversy or potential controversy, weighing in with our sports editor and our assistant sports editor of Josh Coleman and Matt Kennedy in reverse order. Matt's the sports editor and Josh is the assistant. But this week we're going in a different direction. This week we're going to be talking about the growth that has been happening at CMU, how rapidly it's been growing, and weighing in on the pros and cons. So, Casey, why don't you let everybody know your basic rundown on what you think of this?
Right. So I guess to kind of like give a basis of it, I feel like we have kind of a better perspective of it than other people because we're both from here. You know, we've lived here for a very long time before we were CMU students, and we've kind of gotten to see the before CMU. I don't know. I knew it when it was Mesa State. I knew it before it was CMU, and now that I'm a student, I kind of see things differently. But I don't know. Like I'm on the fence with it. I see the positives for CMU growing so much and changing and impacting the community in such a way, but I also there's some negatives, and I don't think we should overlook those.
No, I agree with you. I'm personally a big fan of a lot of the growth that we see here at Colorado Mesa University. Similar to you, I've been here since the '80s, so I've seen it grow from Mesa State into the booming university that it is right now, and seeing how much success that it's been able to achieve, and how much success is still even on the horizon for it. Now, as you said, with every good, there's also a bad. You can certainly understand, when you look at just the expansion in physical locations that has happened at Colorado Mesa University. Some people in the community, they might be a little bit upset because maybe they had homes around here, and now those homes are now just parking lots for buildings at Colorado Mesa University, or have been swallowed up to the point that now where their home stood, where they grew up, is an academic building. And there's some people that have some problems when they look at that, and some people that it feels like maybe their childhood has been erased and swallowed up by this university that just keeps growing. And to a certain extent, I can certainly understand where they're coming from, and agree with that. I mean, when you look at new buildings just since 2014 alone, there's Confluence Hall, there's the Band Storage Building, there's Escalante Hall, there's the Garfield Hall Phase 2. And in addition to that, there's been some major remodels in the outdoor program move, the Penning Hall remodel back to dorms, admissions remodel with the Welcome Center, Wingate Hall, Innovation Center, Little Mavs, Mini Mavs, Health Sciences. And we know that that's not like it's slowing down. It's not going to slow down. It's not going to stop. The university is going to keep growing. And as the university grows, sometimes land's going to have to be taken and utilized for that growth.
Yeah, I think like there was just an email sent out campus-wide about the new track being built. So we're going to have more roads closing down, more parking and transportation, even just through campus, through those back roads, are closed down for the hotel that's being built. And that certainly, I know, caused some problems, especially for residents living on campus, getting around campus. That hasn't been easy for them. But yeah, that's a lot. That's a very long list, and just in the past 5 years. And, we're a newer university. We only became a university in what? Was it 2011? 2011 we became Colorado Mesa University.
Somewhere around there. I actually don't have that date.
So yeah, only a few years of being like an actual university, and then I think we're trying to catch up to our name. Like I think that's part of the whole growth. I know we're trying to keep the small class sizes. I know that's a big positive for a lot of the people that go here, and they like the more personal feel. My professors know my name. I'm sure they know your name. Like having that relationship where you're not just a number it's important and that's what draws people to our campus, but at the same time, we're also really limited in what we offer compared to a lot of the other universities in Colorado. Um, CU Boulder, we are very fortunate to partner with them for some curriculum, but they still offer so many more, paths of study than we do, and I think we're trying to really catch up with that. You know, everyone needs a place here, and unfortunately, like to give everyone a place here, you have to provide space for everybody. That's a lie, and so it feels like we're constantly expanding. I don't know, you kind of, the more we expand and the more we open the doors, like the less of a personal feel I feel like this campus has.
Well, I can certainly see how that would be an issue. I really do appreciate, the classroom sizes that we have now, the fact that our professors do know our names, that they can see us walking on campus, they're going to recognize us, they're going to say hi. And that's not really the image that I had in my mind when I was contemplating going off to a university. I didn't think that the professors would even know who I was. You see that depicted in movies, on television, these monster classrooms, mostly being taught by professor assistants, not even by the professors. And that very small feel is something that's absolutely amazing here. And I think it's actually one of the draws that we have here, and could be a contributing factor for why we continue to have the growth that we do. But with the growth, like you mentioned, we have to be picking up more programs. Some of these other universities just have a lot more programs than we do, and we've actually seen a lot of these programs being created now. We see the development of the Masters of Athletic Training. We see the fact that CMU is getting ready to have a Doctorate of Occupational Therapy program. Physical therapy program, also doctorate level, is being developed. And these are just out of the kinesiology departments, which I'm familiar with because I'm a kinesiology student. But it's far from limited. I mean, basically every department has new programs that are being developed all the time. And I don't necessarily think that we're automatically going to be losing that smaller feel to the classrooms because, we're going to continue to have this expansion. And so I think it's really important that we do continue to have these expansion in the buildings, so we do keep adding these programs. And ultimately, even if it costs, a little bit of property here or there as the university continues to expand outward, ultimately it's actually a very big boost for the economy. Not just for the university, but for all the surrounding community. Because right now we're bringing in 11,000 students that they're not just spending money on campus, they're going out and they're spending money at all the surrounding businesses, and that's going to be a huge boost. As we bring in more programs, we build more buildings, we're going to continue to expand on that student body, and it's going to then boost all of the economy that is surrounding simply from their expenditures.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, I really am on the fence. Like, there's a lot of positive parts of our expansion. I love being able to represent Colorado Mesa University, just around the state of Colorado and internationally. But it's the greatest thing when you travel out of the state and other people begin to recognize your school name. Like, you're not just going to some random college in the middle of nowhere, Colorado. Like, we're building a name for ourselves, and we get to be in the process of developing that and creating that, that thing that clicks in other people's head. So I think like that there's a great part in that. But one of the things that I've been thinking about recently, we brought a bunch of old yearbooks out to look at them. For those of you who don't know, when Colorado Mesa University was just a business school, so like the very beginning, pre-Mesa State even, it was just a business school, and there were so few students that we had a yearbook. We had a yearbook until about the 80s, 90s, and looking through all of those old pictures, like there's such a distinct culture. There were traditions that were carried on year after year. We had very specific homecoming events that we no longer participate in. We had policies on campus. There were just things that we did as a campus, and that those people that started CMU from really the truly beginning, it's lost now, and that's something that we gave up as more of like the cultural side of CMU that it's not even that anymore. Like CMU is so far from where it was when it started that I don't know, just like feeling that loss of culture is kind of disappointing watching it expand, and that's something that you sacrifice with that expansion.
Yeah, I can really see your point there. Recently one of our staff writers actually put out in his column, The Unpopular Opinion, that there was a little bit of a lack of culture he felt here at CMU. And maybe there has been a little bit of a loss of that when you look at, you know, I mean, clearly we don't have yearbooks anymore. We're far too big for that. And some of the old traditions have gone away. I would like to think that we're developing new traditions, and hopefully, as we move forward, we'll really start to see more traditions that are coming in, and I think a lot of that actually gets created by the people that are going to be coming in here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, beyond tradition, I think something else that is a huge boost. I mentioned the economy, and then I kind of got a little bit sidetracked there because I was just talking simply about the students that are here now contributing their money while they're going to CMU. But another consideration that we can look at, both of us being from the Valley, I think it's something that we can certainly appreciate is how important it is to maintain a strong economy in Grand Junction and Mesa County. And one of the things that can happen then is as we increase the amount of programs that we have, as we draw in more students from a very diverse region, then we'll also be able to hopefully keep some of those students around. We'll be able to keep quite a few of them, and then they'll go into business here. And as they're in business here, as doctors, lawyers, whatever it is, then they'll just continue to boost the economy through that stretch as well. And it is sad to see some old tradition going away, but personally, I would rather see the economy thrive, even if that does come at a little bit of an expenditure of culture.
Yeah, I totally understand, and I agree. I think without getting too much into it, when you think about that, it is that change of mindset, that change of culture. You have to be open to change. But this, I don't know. This community kind of has a interesting perspective on change, I think, and I hate to bring it up again, but the perfect example was changing the name of North Avenue a couple years ago. Not to get too much into that, that was a nightmare for us. But when we introduced that idea to City Council, it was not welcomed by a lot of the long-standing and upstanding citizens around the Grand Junction area.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to respect those opinions too, because I'm part of that. They're my parents. They're your parents. We're deeply rooted in this community. But yeah, I don't know. Change is a difficult thing to discuss here, I think.
Right. No, I certainly agree with you. Here I am talking about how I think this growth is great, how I think it's so good for CMU and for the Grand Junction area. But, guilty confession, I was very much against renaming North Avenue.
Yeah.
And not because I had any sort of invested interest in that myself. It was just that because there were so many business owners that were clearly so deeply upset by it, instead of bridging that gap and forming a real strong relationship between the community and the university, it seemed to be driving a divide. And that's certainly not what we want to see, even as CMU grows. I want to see CMU grow. I want to see it continue to thrive. I want to see it bring in more people, really enhance the economy, but not at the expense of the relationship with the community.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, how CMU changes and the culture that it maintains and the traditions it carries on, ultimately, at the end of the day, it's how we go about doing that. How do we want to maintain the relationship with our community, and how do we want to be represented as a college across the nation and internationally? So I think we're on the right track. All things considered, I think expanding our CMU family, our Mavely, expanding that, beginning to create our culture, no matter how silly these things seem. PAC does an excellent job creating those traditions for us, and we expand in so many different ways. But I think at the end of the day, it's how we do it.
Oh, I agree with you completely. Now, for one more of the potential negatives when it comes to the growth, something that here at CMU it affects the students far more than it's going to affect anybody in the community, and that is parking.
Oh.
Parking is a nightmare as it is right now, and that's it's kind of like we've been a victim of our own growth at that point in time. Uh, when you have to drive around for 15 minutes trying to find a parking spot, and then eventually, even though you've paid your fees for the parking, you still end up having to park, several streets away and then just book it and you're 10 minutes late to class. It can already be somewhat disastrous. As we continue to grow, if our parking doesn't grow in conjunction with that, then it kind of um, creates a funnel of a problem there that ideally wouldn't exist.
I can completely understand where you're coming from because last Tuesday I parked for 30 minutes on a side street and waited for a parking spot. I was 30 minutes late to class. But yeah, but I don't know how we do it though. One of the great parts about CMU is that it's such a beautiful campus. I mean, honestly, the design and architecture of our buildings is gorgeous. That draws a lot of appeal. I forget where we rate on most like beautiful campuses in the nation, but I know we're on the list. I know we're high on the list, and proud of that. The way to go CMU. But do we compromise that by building large parking structures? That's a great question to ask. I think because I want a parking structure over by Houston, please, please. but I know like as soon as you build that, you're just gonna feel like you're surrounded by tall buildings, and you're gonna lose how pretty the field is across the street from the parking. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, you certainly do have to take in that consideration, the aesthetic appeal. Right now, we do have a very beautiful campus. It's wonderful to be walking around, especially when the weather's nice, because you have such great visual appeal as you're making your journey from one classroom to another. But it's not just the visual appeal that one has to consider when we're talking about parking. Parking is actually very expensive. According to John Marshall, Vice President of Student Services here at CMU, when it comes to building a new parking structure, a single parking space is going to cost somewhere between $20,000 and $25,000 when you look at all the construction that goes into creating these spaces. So when you're talking about 300 spots that would be created by another parking structure, that's $6 million, and that's on the low end. So I don't want to make it sound like I'm up here complaining that, oh man, the administration should give us more parking spots. Because when you look at the dollar value, it's going to take a long time to pay all that off. I mean, we're all paying $100 annually to get our parking spots. And honestly, that's not that much.
Oh no, it is. It is not that much. And as bad as our parking is, have you ever gone to a bigger school and tried to park like anywhere? Because that is a real nightmare. I think it's bad here. It is not bad here.
Yeah, I think we sometimes think it's bad here because we live in a vacuum.
Yep.
If we were to say go to CU for even a semester, we'd probably come back here and fall on our knees in the parking lot and start kissing the parking spaces because we have a lot more spots by percentage of students than these other big universities, and we pay a lot less for those spots. So I don't want this to sound whatsoever like I'm just griping about the parking situation. I'm just saying with parking already being a problem. Um, and it's a problem that the administration is aware of, and they're working very hard to try to develop more spaces for the students as it is. But if we continue to grow, we certainly don't want to grow ourselves into a position where we're going to be like a CU.
Yeah. I think there's so many other steps we could take before building a structure too. We could talk to the Dash about maybe just doing a Dash run for students in student populated parts of town. I know a lot of them live out in Clifton. I know a lot of them live in the nearby neighborhoods. Maybe we just do a bus route and we can work with our community on developing that. People should walk to campus, bike to campus. There's ways around it if it really does affect you so negatively. I live 2 minutes away. I could probably bike to campus if I really wanted to. it's that helps our community relations so much. It helps everything really, and I think we should really consider that as an option before building a big structure and spending, $6 million on it. 6 million, yeah. I would prefer $6 million of our money to probably go towards developing programs for students and bringing on, well-known professors and providing work opportunities. There's so many other things that dollar amount could go towards, especially when there's so many other options for us.
Right. Well, there you have it, folks. You've heard Casey and I discussing, our takes on growth at CMU, be that how it affects the community, be that how, it affects the student body, the financial implications of it all, and even the parking considerations as it goes into it. After you listen to this podcast, please feel free to reach out and let us know what you think about that.
How can they do that, Chris? How can they reach out to us?
Well, they are more than welcome to make their comments as we put this up on our website, thecrite.com, or they can also reach out to us through our email address to the Criterion, which is criterion@cmu.com.
Pretty sure it's criterion.coloradomesa.edu.
You know what? You are right. So, fortunately, Casey knows our email address. I just check it.
But also, if you don't feel like writing an email to us, you can also message us on Facebook. You can comment on our stuff on Facebook. Please send us an instant message. Message us through Instagram. We're on all these social medias. Like us, follow us. We'd love to hear from you.
And until then, just keep reading our product, keep listening to these podcasts, and we will check in with you again next week.
Thanks, guys.
I don't know how to turn this off. So I need to see
I also don't know.
where
Where's Matt?
Matt is. Where did they go?
I don't know.
Okay. So I don't want to abandon this while this is still going. Oh, you're typing in there. Okay. Oh, it's right here. I think. Oh, look at that.
Cool. How
Sweet.
great. Sorry, Matt.